places. I see familiar faces. Have we met before, or am I just drawing blank? Can you tell me where it might have been, or have I purposely forgotten? I don't know how much more I can take.
Hello everyone, I'm Anthropomantic Fiend, and usually I do horror-related things on the internet, but I'm doing another one of these favorite songs videos today. But before I get into that, I do have a special announcement I would like to make. On Thursday of this upcoming week, I will put the exact date down here. I will be doing a live stream on the Horror Miser Monty G's channel. It is going to be another installment of the Horror Hangouts with me as a special guest, and it is going to be discussing all things Universal Monsters, and that will be featuring myself as well as Jin and Christian from Jin's Reviews from the Grave and Sean Patrick Urshan from the Horror Corner. If you are interested in that, I'm going to be linking the promo video that Sean did in the cards here. With that out of the way, if you've watched any of these favorite songs videos before, you probably know the drill at this point. I am going to list several of my favorite songs I listened to in the past month and talk a little bit about each of them. If you are interested in any of the things I mention, I'm going to be linking a YouTube playlist of all the songs, a Spotify playlist that has most of the songs on it, although a few things weren't on Spotify, and my own personal Spotify favorite songs playlist with over 1,000 songs on it that you can listen to. So without further ado, here are my favorite songs of March 2021. So first off, we have Oblivion by Visborg, and Visborg are a gothic rock band, but they have a lot more going on than just sounding like, say, Sisters of Mercy or Fields of the Nephilim. They've got a very heavy guitar sound and some electronic elements and a lot of different and unique elements thrown into the mix, but they always sound cohesive and every song sounds like it was done by the same band, even with little unique spins on everything. And this song is one of their heavier tracks, and it's very dark and doom-laden. It's got a very repetitive riff, and it's a very long song, so you would think that a song as long as Oblivion that really doesn't stray too far from that pattern would get boring, but it really doesn't. It's kind of hypnotic in a weird way while still being very intense and very groovy in its own way, on top of just being a really solid, heavy piece of gothic rock. There is a saxophone solo, courtesy of the saxophonist from Shining, who are a metal band that mix extreme metal with elements of jazz. Not the other band, Shining, that want everybody to kill themselves. Don't listen to them, I hate them. If you throw a saxophone solo into a song, especially when I'm not expecting it, it usually just makes me extremely, extremely happy, and this song was no exception. It's this really, really dirty, gritty sounding sax solo that fits with the dark but still kind of groovy feel of the whole song. It's just a really, really cool blend of different elements that happen to work really, really well together. Next up, we have Two Hands, One Heart by Blitz Berlin. I do not know that much about Blitz Berlin as a band or musical project, but what I do know is they did the soundtrack for Psycho Goreman, and Psycho Goreman is a movie. The best way to put it is think E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but replace E.T. with Odorous Urungus from Guar, and make the main character a psychopathic little girl, and you basically have Psycho Goreman. And it's not a perfect film, but it is an absolute blast, and the soundtrack by Blitz Berlin is one of the things that makes it that much fun for me. Especially this track that plays during the end credits of the film, which has a very 80s pop metal but slightly heavier vibe to it. You've got these huge sounding drums, these synths, lots of crazy shreddy guitar licks, and wailing vocals. And it's a criminally short track, but it's really, really fun for what it is. I almost included Frig Off, the song that Mimi sings in the movie, just because it's simultaneously really stupid and kind of awesome, but ultimately I think I like Two Hands, One Heart a little bit more, even though it is a shorter track. If you want something that has some classic 80s cheese to it, with kind of some modern punchiness and edge and a bit of self-awareness, please check out this track by Blitz Berlin, and please check out Psycho Gorman. It's not for everybody, but I love it. Next up we have Animals, both as performed by the original artist Architects and as performed by Fabian Ernie. This is actually going to consist of 3 tracks because I listened to the original version of Animals that Architects did a while back so that I could listen to Fabian's cover, but in the same month, Architects themselves also released an orchestral version of the song that is awesome. Both Architects versions have this really, really big, chunky, heavy driving riff contrasted with these very mellow, melancholy, introspective verses, followed by really big, heavy sounding choruses. It's all very melodic, but the songwriting is fantastic, the production is huge and heavy, and the lyrics are very, very angst-ridden, which I always appreciate. And the original is just great and punchy and heavy sounding, but the version with the orchestra just adds this extra layer of epicness to it, because when they perform it with the orchestra, they don't mellow out the song. It is the exact same arrangement beefed up with this massive orchestral sound, and it is wonderful. Fabian Ernie's cover takes that and makes it something a bit more stripped back and definitely focuses on the melancholy aspect of the song, as she tends to do. As I've mentioned before, she is the vocalist for both Helveti and Illumashade, who are both wonderful bands, but she's been hosting a lot of cover songs that are just piano and her voice recently. All of the anger and the angst of the original song is retained, but it's regulated to her voice and the piano. It sounds very, very haunting in its own wonderful way. Next up we have the live version of Who's Got Who by Fable Cry, and I have talked about Fable Cry quite a bit in my past favorite song of the month videos. They describe themselves as theatrical scamp rock, and there's really no one way to classify their music, but this particular album that the track is off of, Fool Me Once, is a concept album set in the 1930s, so there's a slight 30s swing influence to a lot of the different tracks, mixed with their own unique brand of spooky sounding rock music. This particular track is sung from the perspective of the character of Josie Ballou, and was one of the few songs on Fool Me Once written by Joe Cleary, who sings in the band and plays violin. She sings the character of Josie Ballou in this. It is very much a song about anger at being rejected and spurned and pushed around by other people in the world, and it is very much a song about wanting revenge for those things. I heard this song a few months ago when I listened to Fool Me Once, but they have been premiering live versions of the songs off of Fool Me Once on their YouTube channel at the beginning of every week, and one of those was this one, which I particularly liked because it is a very stripped down version of the song. They have this clearly on a budget but still really atmospheric cemetery set that they've put together. It's all done in one camera take that's panning from person to person. This particular arrangement of the song really focuses on the vocal harmonies between Joe, Ida, and Jillian. just about everybody in this band sings, which I love. Much like I was talking about with Fabian's work, it really emphasizes the intense emotion of the song contained in this slightly more stripped back version of everything. And I just love Fable Cry, so I don't really know how to classify their stuff. It really just has to be heard to be believed, and it really needs to be heard by more people, so I highly recommend listening to this track and watching this video. And next up we have I'm Blue, as covered by Melodica Bros and Violet Orlandi. This is the second cover of I'm Blue by Eiffel 65 I have ever talked about in one of these, because Flesh God Apocalypse did one at the beginning of the year. But this version is specifically I'm Blue, but it's gothic metal. It takes what is, as I've said, an admittedly pretty annoying dance pop track and turns it into something that sounds like theater of tragedy. The fact that they were able to take something so annoying and make it something so gorgeous and dark and heartfelt sounding is wonderful. Violet has an amazing singing voice, and everybody involved in Melodica Bros are just fantastic musicians, so nothing else really needs to be said there. Next up we have Kingdom of Heaven Part 3 by Epica. I did just listen to the most recent album from Epica, Omega. I was absolutely not disappointed. I really do love every track that's on the album, and I almost picked Code of Life for this spot, but Kingdom of Heaven Part 3 is probably my favorite. Just from a conceptual standpoint, I really need to go back and listen to Kingdom of Heaven Parts 1 and 2 and figure out where this fits into that whole story. But even on its own, it's a very long, epic piece of symphonic metal with some really beautifully haunting, gorgeous passages and some of my favorite super heavy riffs on the Omega album. The Omega album that I got also came with a second disc, which is Omega Acoustic, which is acoustic covers of some of the songs off of Omega, one of which is an a cappella cover of Rivers. The original version of the song in and of itself is very, very haunting, but this version of the song is just Simone and a choir singing everything a cappella, and it is even more haunting. It just sounds amazing. I would love to hear this version of the song performed live by like a full choir with a soloist. It would just be phenomenal. Next up we have The Neverending Story, as covered by The Birthday Massacre. The Birthday Massacre are one of my favorite bands ever, as I have talked about in the past. I did a whole video on their album from last year. They actually covered the main theme from The Neverending Story much earlier in their career, but they recently redid it with better production. If you just want to hear the theme from The Neverending Story as performed in the style of The Birthday Massacre by The Birthday Massacre, I really don't know what else to say. It is just a wonderful cover of a wonderful song, and thank you to Collector Man for actually letting me know that this was happening, because for whatever reason, despite me being very obsessed with The Birthday Massacre, this just flew under my radar, or would have flown under my radar without him letting me know. Next up we have Beetlejuice by Ex Mortis. This is another cover song, being the Danny Elfman main title theme for Beetlejuice, as covered by metal band Ex Mortis. And I actually discovered this while looking for music to put on my Instagram story when promoting the Beetlejuice stream I did with Collector Man. This is beat for beat the Danny Elfman theme from Beetlejuice, but performed with 2 guitars, a bass, and drums. How they were so effectively able to adapt all of these little orchestral nuances from the song to just those 4 instruments blows my mind, because there are all these little bits that are there. They do stray away from that in the middle section where they are trading off solos, but that is just an epic shredfest, and I really don't care because it's just a great tribute to one of my favorite movies done in melt your face off metal fashion. And in the video, all of the band members are dressed like Beetlejuice, which is also fun. And finally, we have Popular Monster by Falling in Reverse, as well as the cover by Hallucine featuring Lauren Babic. Falling in Reverse is a band that I have not really given the time of day for pretty much ever until I started religiously watching the reaction videos that Tori Reacts does. She does a lot of the symphonic metal, but also a lot of metalcore. I heard the original version of the song, and then I heard the Hallucine version of the song towards the tail end of last month. Both of them were kind of awesome in the same way. It's a very interesting mix of kind of poppy metalcore with rap sections, and then a full-on aggressive, growly metal section. The Falling in Reverse version is solid. I do like the Hallucine version just a little bit better. I do just like their singer's tone a little bit more, and I'm just a fan of Lauren Babic's other work, thanks to The Soulless Trench. It's just really solid, catchy, heavy songwriting. Once again, I will be linking all of the aforementioned playlists below. Those are my favorite songs of March 2021. Thank you for watching my video, and hopefully I will see you in another one. Bye!
Break loose from the chair.